Your countries are going to hell.
This was the UN summit. Speeches, clashes, and controversies. The United Nations turned 80 this year, and instead of a celebration, what we saw in New York was a political earthquake. The 81st session of the General Assembly opened in a tense atmosphere. Over 150 world leaders, a hall full of fiery speeches, and a world teetering on the edge of multiple conflicts. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, do it now so we can continue bringing you in-depth coverage of breaking stories worldwide. UN Secretary-General António Guterres opened the day with a stark warning. Impunity is the mother of chaos. He spoke about Gaza, Ukraine, Sudan, and how the UN is losing its founding principles of peace and cooperation. It was a call for unity, yes, but just minutes later, everything shifted. Donald Trump took the microphone, and the summit was transformed. With a speech that lasted nearly an hour, he lashed out at the UN itself, calling it an empty shell and the biggest fraud of all. He mocked climate policies as a giant con job and fired direct warnings at Europe. Your countries are going to hell because of migration and green energy. The US president also sent a chilling message. America will not pay for the world's mistakes. His address was marked by threats of more sanctions against countries like Iran, North Korea, and, of course, Venezuela. Trump insisted that the United States would not hesitate to act unilaterally if the UN remains ineffective. A statement that split the room, applause from some, icy stares from others. In an instant, social media exploded. Clips of Trump saying, "Your countries are going to hell," went viral on X, with thousands cheering that he tells it like it is, and others calling it embarrassing. Even an awkward moment with the escalator turned into a meme. But beyond the showmanship, there were serious takeaways. Trump demanded Hamas release hostages, warned Russia of tougher sanctions, and took credit for developments in Ukraine and Gaza. His message was clear. Under his leadership, the US isn't seeking consensus, it's setting the terms. On the other side, Turkey made its presence felt. President Erdogan demanded an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and global recognition of a Palestinian state. His words resonated strongly in the Arab world and outside the UN building, where thousands of protesters rallied with signs reading, "End the occupation." And then came the diplomatic bombshell. Just a day earlier, countries like France, Canada, the UK, and even Australia had officially recognized the State of Palestine. Today, over 80% of UN members do. Israel has yet to speak, but anticipation is sky-high for Prime Minister Netanyahu's upcoming address, especially with an International Criminal Court arrest warrant hanging over him. Meanwhile, Ukraine and Sudan were pushed into the background, even as their wars continue to claim lives. And climate change, the forgotten issue of this summit, barely made it into the conversation, except for Brazil and a few African nations demanding real commitments. At Languages Unlimited, we have been closely following the summit and highlighting key points. Guterres tried to send a message of unity, but it came across as a desperate warning. Trump turned the hall into a political boxing ring, polarizing like never before. Gaza and Palestine dominated both inside and outside the building, and what should have been an anniversary of celebration for the UN ended up confirming its fragility. Amid all this, we at Languages Unlimited believe the challenge is not only political or military, but also one of communication. In such sensitive scenarios, clarity of language and cultural understanding are vital to avoid mistakes that can escalate conflicts. That is why our mission will always be to facilitate dialogue, build bridges, and promote diplomacy over confrontation. through our translation, interpretation, and transcription services. For now, the inevitable question remains: are we witnessing the beginning of the end of the UN as a global actor? Or is this chaos exactly the moment it needs to reinvent itself? We'll see in the next few days as the UN summit continues. Until then, let us know what you think in the comments. See you in the next video.